I think that was mean of me. You wish you hadn't? Charlton H. once said, yes, you shouldn't call people names like that. Fans were not ready for how brutally honest his secret blacklist was, though. H named the 9 stars he couldn't stand in a collection of candid interviews and found memoir notes. He called some of them lazy, others fake, and some downright dangerous to work with. The famous actor didn't hold back when there were fights on set or political grudges. You won't believe who made the cut. Mr. Rex Harrison. While The Agony and the Ecstasy, an epic movie from 1965, was being filmed, tensions between two Hollywood giants threatened to overshadow the project's grandeur. In the movie, Charlton H. played the passionate and troubled artist Michelangelo, and Rex Harrison played the strict and powerful Pope Julius II. Even though the movie was about how the two historical figures had artistic and philosophical disagreements, there was a lot of tension between the actors behind the scenes as well. Production notes from the set and later comments on the film's Wikipedia page both support the idea that H and Harrison never found anything they had in common. The two performers didn't get along at first because they had very different personalities and ways of performing, which made the room tense. H, who was known for his strict and physically demanding style, worked very hard to show Michelangelo's inner struggle. Harrison, on the other hand, played the Pope with a more refined and intelligent energy, and he was said to have found H's intense methods annoying. What started out as differences in creativity turned into personal ones over time. Far away. The people who worked on the movie say that Harrison would do anything to avoid H, not just during breaks but also in the years to come. There isn't a straight quote from H saying that he hates Harrison, but the coldness between them said a lot. Later, interviews and diaries would show that their working relationship was tense and lacking any sense of camaraderie. Ironically, their tense bond at the start may have fueled. Because of how dramatic their roles were, each man was in a fight of wills, both on and off the screen. But there wasn't much peace after the cameras stopped rolling. Harrison, in particular, stayed away from H in later projects, making sure that any artistic talent that came from working together would never happen again. The professional Cold War between these two great movie stars is still one of the more interesting side stories in Hollywood history. I'm Sam Peckinpah. Tensions between star Charlton H. and Maverick director Sam Peckinpah hit a boiling point on the troubled set of Major Dundee, 1965. This led to one of H's most explosive confrontations behind the scenes in his career. H came to the set expecting a clear vision and strong leadership because he is known for having a powerful screen presence and being very disciplined, like in the military. Instead, he found Peckinpah's style, which was erratic and hard to predict. Peckinpah was a talented but unstable director who often liked chaos over order. From the start, there was a lot of confusion with the process. Peckinpah was known for rewriting scenes on the spot and going against what the company wanted. He often made last-minute changes to the script without warning. This made the cast and team very angry, but H was the most upset. As a strict professional, H took great joy in planning and organization, which went against Peckinpah's natural, rebellious way of doing things. The problem reached a peak when, on one especially rough day of shooting, Peckinpah started giving out strange directions and switching scenes in the middle of filming. Honor had been through weeks of chaos and confusion before he finally lost his cool. In an action scene that would go down in Hollywood history, H, still dressed as the title character, Major Dundee, rode up on a horse and charged straight at the director. Reports from the set said that the crew was frozen with shock as H, with his hand in the air, slammed into Peckinpah. It is said that the director jumped out of the way just in time to avoid getting hit by the player. It was more than just entertainment or dramatic flair. It really almost turned violent, and it was caused by weeks of stress and creative disagreement. Han would later play down the event and even laugh about it in interviews, but people who were there knew how serious it was. Han didn't leave the movie because of the disagreement. He even refused to get paid to keep the production going. This was not a sign of loyalty to Peckinpah, but to the movie itself. Since then, the fight between the strict star and the rebellious director has become part of the long-lasting stories about Major Dundee. A movie that came about when two fiery people with big dreams for movies met on the rough edges of movie making. The story is told by Frank Languela. A lot of people respected Charlton H for how strong he was and how well he portrayed historical and biblical figures, but not everyone who worked with him liked being around him. In fact, actor Frank Langella wrote one of the most scathing reviews of a character in his autobiography, Dropped Names, Famous Men and Women as I Know Them. I knew them. Langella, who is known for his serious and subtle acting, didn't hold back when he talked about his time with H. He painted a very negative picture of the Hollywood star. Langella said that H was as not funny as a CAT scan and had about as much sex appeal as a railroad tie. Though sarcastic and rude, H's words showed the cold professionalism and stiffness that he was thought to be known for behind the scenes. Even though Langella didn't describe a specific fight, it was clear what she meant. It was cold, awkward, and there wasn't any of the camaraderie that many stars love on set when they work with H. It wasn't just insults to idols. Some people in Hollywood thought that Han could be emotionally distant and stiff, even though he was clearly talented and disciplined. For some, he was the perfect example of an old-school, solid manly manhood. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind and was maybe too serious. In a field that values emotional complexity and openness more and more, H's straightforward personality could come off as feeling cold or out of place. One thing that makes Langella's review so powerful is that it is so different from how fans and directors often treated H with respect. It shows that some of his friends did not see him as the great Moses or the good Judah Banner, but as a man who was hard to connect with on a personal level. Like any other narrative, Langella's is subjective, and his sarcastic tone is part of what makes him unique. That being said, however, made H's anger worse. A difficult legacy. Not only because of the iconic parts and box office hits he played, but also because of the complicated and sometimes cold relationships he left behind. Ed Nur. In the early 1980s, when Charlton H was president of the Screen Actors Guild, SAG, a fierce ideological fight broke out that put him in the national spotlight. Not for the movies he was in, but for a political fight that made Hollywood shake. At the center of the trouble was fellow actor and left. Ed Nur was an activist who was one of TV's most recognized faces at the time because of Lou Grant. What started as a disagreement about union rules turned into a public fight that made headlines and showed how divided the entertainment business really is. Han has been a conservative for a long time and was a huge Ronald Reagan fan. As SAG president, he clearly leaned to the right. He pushed for strong anti-communist views and less involvement of unions in politics. He was also wary of players using the guild as a stage for political events. More general social action. On the other hand, Asner saw the guild as a place for solidarity, progressive values, and support for political causes, such as fighting against U.S. foreign policy in Central America, which was a cause he was very active with at the time. A magazine called Movie Maker says that the fight between H and wasn't just happening in talks. It got out into the news, talk shows, and industry events, where each man used his public position to defend his idea of what SAG should do. Honed Asner of getting political. People in the union were pushing leftist ideas, and Asner said that H was trying to quiet political speech and take away the union's moral voice. During the Reagan years, the fight became a symbol of the larger cultural split in Hollywood. The fight wasn't even close to being polite. It was sharp, emotional, and based on very different ideas about the world. For Han, the union was a professional group that should protect pay and contracts. For Asner, it should also stand up for moral reasons and speak out against wrongdoing. Both guys wouldn't give up because they thought they were protecting the guild's soul. The Hansner battle is still one of the most well-known and controversial events in SAG history, even though the fighting has become less intense over time. It showed not only two players who were at odds with each other, but also two different ideas about what artists should do in society. One is based on tradition and structure, while the other is based on action and morality. Sophia Loren, Charlton H., and Sophia Loren were two of the biggest stars of their time. They may have looked like they had a fiery relationship in the 1961 historical epic El Cid, but their relationship was anything but loving behind the scenes. Their dislike for each other has become so well known in Hollywood that it has turned into a feud with tension, avoidance, and no physical contact at all. Tom Lethem, a film expert who wrote for Far Out magazine, says that H felt very awkward working with Loren, especially in scenes that needed them to be emotionally close. Being physically close. In the movie, they played lovers who couldn't be together, but H allegedly wouldn't even look at Loren in her close-ups. Instead, he